everyone. To introduce myself, so I'm David. I am the country manager for our customers in the DACH region at mParticle. I've been with the business just under 2 years or so now, and mParticle is an infrastructure customer data platform that basically helps organizations like Adidas, Airbnb, Spotify, basically collect customer data from basically anywhere and bring that into a single customer profile to get really a 360 view of the customers that you're working with. From there, we apply a lot of quality and governance and machine learning and AI insights to the data before we ultimately stream that data in real time to activation channels so that you can really activate and personalize on customer data in real time. We've got with us today hopefully two mParticle advocates alongside me in Julian and Karan. So if you both want to introduce yourselves and what you do, that would be great.
I can start, yeah. Thank you, David. Thanks for having me. I'm Julian. I'm working at C&A, so C&A, very big fashion retailer. I think it's one of the highest brand recognition across Europe, definitely in Germany. I'm leading a CDP at C&A, so I think it comes at no surprise that that's mParticle in our case. And thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Excellent.
Hi. Sorry. I'm Karan, originally from India, and Karan for people who are from the States and can't roll the R. I've been in Berlin for, I think, roughly 3.5 years. My German is still terrible, so excuse me for that. And I'm the global head of CRM at Marley Spoon. And I know there are a few HelloFresh people in the house as well. So for people who don't know Marley Spoon, I always like to say it's the better version of HelloFresh. So that's me.
Thanks, Karan. And at mParticle, we speak to a lot of organizations, and they're all looking to drive growth, obviously. And with growth comes a lot more customer data. With more customer data comes a lot of complex challenges. There's a lot of unpredictable changes that happen in any organization, be that internal changes, that can be external changes in the market, or changes with regards to privacy, compliance, when you think of GDPR, or the changes with the Apple and Google privacy frameworks. And really, at mParticle, we talk about the need a lot to be truly adaptable when it comes to your technology stack and your customer data stack, to really be able to drive value from customer data. A lot of organizations have all the data, but it's really driving that value from the data, which is the challenge. So I guess that leads to the first question to Julian. And what does a best-in-class marketing tech stack look like for you? And as you've built out that stack, what's been the most important things for you?
Yeah, best in class. I don't think we are there yet, but we're on a good way. What makes it unique also for C&A as a very old fashion retailer? So we are very, very old. Almost everybody knows us because we are that old. We are in every major German city, also in the small ones. And having a best-in-class marketing stack is especially hard for us because we grew very rapidly in a couple, 2 to 3 years, especially online. So offline, that's not a question. We are basically everywhere. But online, not so much. So we grew very rapidly. And this led to a vast amount of online tools also that we're using. So we have integrated so many online tools in the past 2 years that we now have this whole ecosystem at C&A, and they're just not working with each another. They're just not communicating. They're just working on their own, decoupled. And so that's not really a good marketing stack, right, if they're just doing their own stuff. And what makes it a good marketing stack is if they would actually talk to another. So on-site wouldn't talk to email. Email would talk to on-site, and with paid ad, with retargeting. And this also forms kind of an opportunity for us. So if we have all these different tools, and I think this answers the question, what is the best of, what is the art of a marketing stack? For us, it is a best-of-breed marketing stack. So we have all these different tools. They're really good at what they are supposed to do. So we have one tool that's really good for on-site personalization. There is another tool that's really good for paid social campaigns, and another tool that's really good for email. And this best-of-breed stack is, in my opinion, what makes a really good marketing stack. And the key mission is to make them aligned and not have them just work decoupled from each other.
Awesome. Thanks, Julian. Same question to you, Karan.
I mean, from my perspective, like, I don't know how many people are there in the room, let's say roughly 30. If we ask this question to everyone, everyone will give a very different answer to what is the best-in-class marketing tech stack. So from my perspective, if I, let's say, take a bird's eye view and say that, okay, from a marketing tech perspective, there are three core pillars. So the first is on building an audience. And that audience building transcends all touch points. So it's not about whether users are engaging with the app or the web or any other touch point. How can you make sure that you are building the right segments? How can you make sure that you're using that data to create the right targeting, create the right conversion tracking, and so on? So that's the first piece. The second is, of course, around omni-channel orchestration. How can you make sure that whether it's an online channel, whether it's an offline channel, whether it's also on-site personalization, how can you make sure that you're able to orchestrate the right channels to the right audiences and also leverage that engagement data to make sure you're not sending, let's say, disconnected information. And the final piece to that, of course, is the personalization piece. So, of course, not every customer is similar. How can you ensure that you're able to unlock that personalization component, whether it's around the value proposition, whether it's around the content, whether it's around the channel, and so on. So there are other parts to this marketing tech stack around, let's say, attribution and tracking. But to me, those three pillars are what constitute, let's say, that best-in-class stack. And if you look at, let's say, this whole ecosystem, of course, you have CDPs, you have CRMs, you have this new concept of customer experience platform. And of course, we are in the space where every tool is trying to do everything. And eventually, to me, that best-in-class means that these three pillars we are able to unlock in an effective way, where eventually it's all about how do we create personalized experiences for customers. And it's impossible to do that when you're not able to unlock these three pillars in an effective way. So to me, that would constitute a best-in-class marketing tech stack.
Awesome, makes sense. And my next question is, I guess, a bit of a leading question, but as your data strategy has changed, how has having a customer data platform in place helped you stay agile when it comes to things like setting up campaigns, when it comes to onboarding and offboarding new technologies in the stack? How's a CDP been helpful? And which CDP is that you're using? Karan, over to you. Yeah.
So I think like again, maybe from my perspective on this. So if you look around as well, I would always start with why are we using a CDP, right? So there are all these debates now on the future of CDPs, reverse ETL, and whether the data warehouse is the source of truth. To me, I think it starts with, let's say, if I look at Marley as an example, so why we went in this direction of using mParticle as our CDP, it was more to do with, being able to stitch that customer journey together. So Marley has multiple brands. So let's say if I'm a customer, I might be an active customer on one brand, might never have heard of the second brand, and a churned customer of the third brand. And for us to basically personalize communication to these audiences, it was impossible to do unless we were able to stitch that customer journey together. So that was the why behind us moving in this direction of using a CDP so that we were able to unify that customer and stitch that customer journey together in the first place. And then, of course, that unlocks other use cases around cross-selling, around data activation, and so on. But the why behind of us moving to mParticle was more about being able to stitch that customer journey together so that we could personalize at scale.
Awesome. And Julian, same question?
Yeah, so CDP at CNA, it's interesting, I would say. So the current landscape or the landscape that we're trying to modernize is the picture that I gave you before. So we have CNA in the middle and all those different tools, and they are doing their own stuff, and email has no idea what onsite does, and so on. And I think there are two problems or challenges with it. First of all, people need to shift their minds to really work with each other, to be aligned. And this is kind of goes in the direction that you said, that all those tools can do it all, basically, nowadays. So all the different tools, they can all build their own audiences. Most of them have journey builders. It's just not really beneficial to the organization if they're all using them decoupled. And then definitely there's also the technology side to it. This is especially a scenario where mParticle is fitting. So if we want to make sure that on-site, in-app, paid social ads also, and email as a very important own channel, if they should be able to work together, then they need to have the identities resolved. They're working with a completely different set of identities. So on in-app, we have like a device ID, we used to have IDFA, we still have it to some extent. Email, it's obviously the email address that we're harnessing. For paid ads, it's something completely different. If you don't have that one tool that can resolve them, that now is okay, there's just one CNA customer with different identities, but it's the same, then it's very hard to make them talk to another. And, but this is essentially what we want to do, right? Because there is really just one CNA customer. If I'm a CNA customer, surprisingly, and not just because of the employee discounts, because I like CNA, and it's just me. It's not like there's a Facebook Julian, and there's an email Julian and an in-app Julian. It's just me, right? And that's not what we are reflecting at the moment. We are just acting like they're different Julians, and yeah, fortunately there aren't. There's just me. And yeah, we can do that technically wise with a CDP if we integrate those channels. If we have the ID resolution set up, then we can make sure that there is a technology infrastructure, the customer data infrastructure to make all this happen. And but the other thing is that I already touched on that you said it's really important to align in the whole organization, which is a single source of truth now for the audiences. It's like Dynamic Yield as an on-site tool has an audience builder. Is that the single source of truth? Probably mParticle would be better fitting because mParticle has the customer data consolidated from different touch points also. Which tool is going to be the single source of truth for campaign management? So those are questions that need to be answered because if you don't have this solved, then it's really hard to also build personalization and campaigns that are aligned. And this is our end goal. We want to have personalization and communication that is just aligned. We don't want to have, for example, cart abandonment. It's a very predominant use case in the fashion, in the e-commerce area, I would say. And we don't want to have it like this, that if I'm abandoning my cart for whatever reason, it could be 1,000 reasons for it. We don't want every channel that knows about it just spamming me with some kind of communication that goes in the direction of, hey, Julian, there's something in your cart. We want to make it aligned. Like maybe give me a little reminder. Email, it's from a CNA perspective very important. It's an own channel. It's not costing us if you send me an email. If I'm not engaging, then based on my email engagement data, we want to send the further, craft a further communication. And we can't really do that if we don't solve the first two challenges. The mind, because they are actually people who have to work together. It's not just the tools, and the technical part. And this is what the CDP is doing for us, the technical part.
Awesome. Makes sense. Makes sense. And how important is it then to be able to personalize and to deliver experiences in real time? Karan, if you want to take that one.
I mean, it's a paradoxical question, right? Like, I think, of course, it is what everyone is expecting. And I was just reflecting on it the other day. I was taking a flight, and I had a train booked to Frankfurt. And I think the train got delayed, and had I not checked the app, I might have missed my flight. Now, if I take that as an example, right, so if, let's say, I did not have the app, I might not have seen that notification. So because everyone behaves differently, it's about putting that personalization in context. And if it's not real time, of course, some of it is not relevant. And I'll take an example of how personalization works in Marley Spoon. So, of course, as an organization, one of our challenges is managing that customer experience when we deliver these food boxes, where we rely on third-party services. And sometimes, of course, we have those situations where the box is not delivered properly, or let's say in Australia, where there's a food shortage on certain products, like let's say broccoli, and we substitute it with cauliflower, people get agitated. So to me, personalization is not just about activating positive experiences, but also managing expectations on negative experiences. And what we do is, so let's say if I send out an email on this particular example to an audience who got a bad, let's say, experience with their box delivery, and I ask them to refer a friend, chances are they're absolutely not going to do that. So how do we then make sure that when we are sending out these communication across millions of audiences, where we have audiences which don't interact with email, we have audiences which don't have an app, we have audiences which have an app and don't have push notifications enabled, for example. We have an audience which will absolutely get mad if we send them an SMS, and an audience which loves interacting with SMS, for example. So how do we put all of this in context where we then make sure we are leveraging the context, we are leveraging the behavioral data, and we are leveraging the engagement data to make sure that for this audience, which let's say got a bad service, we are acknowledging that behavior and maybe giving them an incentive. But for that audience which had a great experience with the product and has push notifications enabled, for example, we're not sending them too much information, but basically sending them a push notification, let's say, and asking them to refer a friend. So unlocking all of this in real time, of course, is critical. Otherwise, we are in a situation where we are not improving that customer experience. And we are expecting that, of course, everyone would behave in an equal way. So yes, super important.
Sure, makes sense. And Julian, the last question to you, that this time is kind of freaking me out at the front, but what are you looking forward to doing next with regards to customer data? Like, what's the future for CNA?
Yeah. So I have a roadmap in mind. It's not just in my mind; it's also documented. And it consists basically on 3 steps. So the first thing I want to fix, so to say, with the CDP is really the customer data infrastructure. Just making sure that actually this golden record for customer is in the CDP. It's not just sprinkled around our stack and dynamically is having something, email tools having something, but it's really consolidated. Mm-hmm. And then I want to build upon this profile. And the second phase would be definitely to align the audiences. I want to make sure we have so many audiences that people are using and they are the same, but they don't. It just randomly happened. It just randomly happened that they're working with the same audiences. But the thing is, they are based on different data because they're all tracking it decoupled. And also the calculation for the audiences is not the same. That results in very different audiences, basically. So aligned audience and definitely aligned campaigns. That's something that's super important. As I said earlier, we want to make sure that the campaigns actually are aligned, communication is aligned, it's not just spamming. And so these 3 pillars, so to say, are most important. And then definitely we're going to shift also towards more AI use cases like churn prediction, mm-hmm. for example, which I'm very happy is that mParticle actually acquired with Arosso that comes in very handy. We have this gold record at this time than in the future. So we all have the data that we use that we need for churn prediction and also propensity modeling. And this is really something I'm looking forward. It's an exciting topic. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us on stage. We're at booth 7. If anyone's got any questions, we've got water bottles and bags and everything. So come over and see us. It'd be great to speak to you then. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.